You're listening to JTE Movie Thinks. Is that the title? Is that correct grammar? All right, we'll go with it. It's a show about movies and thinking. And now, here's your host, every man's hero, JTE.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the JTE Movie Thinks podcast. Why am I saying it like that? Because, guys, I'm bringing the podcast back for 2018. It's been a while. Things happened. Honestly, YouTube happened. I kind of really put a lot of concentration on there, and it just became a lot of work to keep up this podcast. But recently, I opened up a Patreon. Check it out, patreon.com/JTE April Dawn. Have it there with my girlfriend. And one of the things was like, all right, if I'm going to do a Patreon, I want to start doing more things outside of just my YouTube channel. I want to bring back the JT Movie Thinks podcast. It does cost some money to do this thing, guys. So that's one of the reasons why, I actually have a bandwidth. But thanks to Schmoes Know, they're going to help me actually post this on there, and it just makes everything easier. So, guys, this will be a monthly podcast, maybe twice a month, depending on what's going on. January, February, not the busiest time for movies, although March is like a brand new summer. So I might do a lot more reviews on here, kind of almost like things that complement my video reviews. If you really want me, if I want to get into it and get in depth on it with somebody else, that's why I'm going to bring somebody in here. I should have started this thing with Last Jedi, because that's what everyone's talking about. But you know what? I got somebody for my first guest who has never been on the show. Correct, RB3?
Oh, man. Thanks for having me on, JT. I really appreciate that. Yeah, this is my first time coming on the JT Movie Thinks podcast. I was telling you before we went on air, same thing with you and same thing with the Knapsack Files and all these other podcasts. I was a fan of you guys back when I was in high school. And now I get to be on your show.
Old.
So. Yeah,
I'm so old.
I'm just so young. So.
Yeah, that's why you're the next generation. I'm bringing you in here. I'm going to have more guests back on Screen Junkies, Schmoes, Collider Crew. Of course, Tom Dagnino, a.k.a. Finstock, will be a steady guest on this show. He always has been. But I'm excited. I'm excited to be back and just get back into the flow of things, talking movies. Listen, when it comes down to it, whenever we hang out outside of the studio, if I was just carrying a microphone around, I'd have about 6 episodes already. Because when we get together, we just talk movies.
Yeah.
We went to a premiere at Daddy's Home 2. We're just talking movies in line. We went to Cody Hall's wedding. We just talked movies the whole time. Right. It was the week after.
Yeah,
what just came out? Justice
Party.
League.
Yeah.
Justice League just came out, and the whole wedding we're just talking Justice League, basically.
Yeah. Riley's Christmas party.
Yeah, we were talking movies. Yeah. I think we were talking Last Jedi then, weren't we?
We were getting ready for.
We were getting ready for. I think. Yeah.
We're talking Rogue One.
Yeah,
Force Awakens.
That's right. We were talking Rogue One. So, guys, we're just geeks that like talking about movies, and we figured why not throw a microphone in there and see what happens. You have your own podcast. Plug it.
Yeah. I've me and myself and Andres Escambera recently started the Meaning of podcast. Where week to week we evaluate different directors' filmography and break down the inner meanings, the themes, the messages that these directors are getting across, and how it might connect to the filmmakers' personal lives and whatnot. So
yeah, which is a great idea for podcasts, because when I was a kid and I really got into film, you find it started with actors for me. I like the actor. I want to see every movie the actor was in. But once you become more of a film buff, you realize it's the director that makes the movie. It's his vision. So once you attach yourself to a director, then you start just going down his filmography. And it's a cool idea. You guys done Spielberg, Alexander Payne. Yeah. What else have you guys done?
We did Rian Johnson. And building up to the Last Jedi review that we had at the end. We had a lot. We have a few. Our first episode was Darren Aronofsky, and that's also a time we got to talk about Mother, the new.
Oh yeah.
We sometimes like to coordinate it according to the release date. So
totally makes sense. I think it's a great idea for a podcast. You guys should check it out. It's very interesting, and I love how you don't just do directors that have a long career. Rian Johnson only made a handful of films,
right?
So he's still developing as a director, and obviously The Last Jedi was a big jump for him. But it's cool to see you guys tackle different directors in that aspect. I don't know. It's just a great podcast. Give it a listen. But let's talk about what we're here to talk about. JTE Movie Thinks. How this podcast works, in case you guys are new to this channel. I bring my friends on, and I'm like, yo, what's the last movie you watched? And it doesn't always have to be in theaters. Maybe it's something they watched on Netflix the night before. Maybe they watched it on a plane on the way over here. Maybe you guys watched, maybe you're at a friend's house and they introduce you to a movie that you never saw before. And you're like, oh, snap. Maybe it's a movie you always wanted to see. You finally caught up with it. You rented that sucker on Amazon or Vudu. I don't know what you're using.
Right.
And let's just talk about the last movie, RB3. Robert Butler III.
Oh, hey, my government name.
Yes, your government name. What is the last movie you watched?
I gotta say, man, last night I didn't.
Last night, oh
yeah, I didn't think about it in terms of prepping for. I was just watching. Actually, recently I've been trying to pick up more of like 2017 movies to
stuff that you kind of missed.
Yeah, stuff that I missed and stuff that's been coming on the streaming platforms that I need to catch up on. Now, this movie actually came out in 2016.
Okay.
I thought it came out in 2017 because
okay.
I also want to get like the list ready, right? Like we're gonna do a top 10 eventually. So that movie is Silence. The Martin Scorsese, Andrew Garfield.
That's right.
Adam Driver.
Oh wow, you just catching up to that?
I'm just catching. That's I didn't very see it in theaters. So
I saw this movie last year, ArcLight Hollywood, which is a real fancy theater out here in LA, and they get movies like when you hear movies playing in New York and LA in one theater. ArcLight's the theater that gets it.
Oh, yeah.
9 out of 10 times. So I remember it was right before Christmas break. I think Christmas break was just starting. I think it might have came out Christmas Day now I think about it last year. I'm not 100%.
It did, yeah.
It did. I remember going to ArcLight to see that movie and by myself and it was just like, all right, Scorsese, Andrew Garfield, Liam Neeson, Adam Driver, Kylo Ren, and I'm a huge Scorsese fan. He's one of my favorite directors. And I love when he kind of dips into this religious stuff. I am a huge fan of The Last Temptation of Christ. I feel like that's the movie. It's not the sexy movie to bring up when you think Scorsese. You think Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas, Wolf of Wall Street. Nobody ever really talks about The Last Temptation of Christ. And to me, that is probably one of his most fascinating and deepest films, in my opinion. I actually saw a screening of it here in LA a couple of years ago. They had a special screening around Easter weekend, and I took my family to see it and didn't tell them what it was about, and they really dug it. So when I went into Silence, I was really excited to see him revisit that religious kind of aspect of it and like what has changed in him. So before we really get into it, what was your overall thoughts on the movie just after watching it? It's a long movie. It's long. It's like 3 hours.
It really is 3 hours.
So like, did you love it? Did you hate it? Were you underwhelmed? Were you overwhelmed? What were your thoughts?
I gotta say, man. Well, I'll say, I follow a lot of the reviews, a lot of critics and stuff like that. So one of the reasons why I didn't see it in theaters is because a lot of times I gauge my opinions kind of based on a lot of times what Scott Mann says, right? Because Mance is actually like when I talk to Mance, me and Mance are usually 9 times out of 10 we're on the same page about everything. Like he likes Spider-Man 3, I like Spider-Man 3. He loves Blade Runner, I love Blade Runner. Some stuff that he doesn't like, like he didn't love The Last Jedi, I didn't love The Last Jedi.
Listen, I love Scott Mance. He's a brother. He's one of my favorite people also to talk movies with because of that reason. There's times where I'm so in the left field. I mean, a lot of people liked Rogue One. I loved Rogue One. He loved it. There's another movie, though, I absolutely love, Mad Max Fury Road. He did not like very much. Yeah. So, like, it's crazy. You never know what side he's going to fall on. And that, for me, makes interesting conversation. So I did not know you and him had you saw eye to eye on a lot of movies. So
yeah, a lot of times. And then there are some examples, like you just mentioned, like Mad Max. I love Mad Max as well. He doesn't love it. But again, it's like most of the time we end up lining up pretty close to each other. So he didn't really have a good response to Silence. So I was like, I don't know if I want to pay for a 3-hour movie, drive all the way out to Hollywood just to, be a little disappointed.
Because it's an ArcLight.
right, exactly. Yeah, and that was the only theater. It didn't even go national, I think. Yeah. So I didn't end up catching it in theaters. It finally hit Amazon Prime recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I gotta say, man, watching it at home, I was pretty surprised by how much I liked this movie.
Oh,
like, it ranked really, it was really powerful to me in terms of the experience, the story they're going for, the messages they're going across. It was really deep and interesting. I just didn't see that coming from like
interesting. I will give you I have not seen it since I saw it in theaters. And I will say I'm glad I saw this in theaters because it did test my patience.
Yeah, it does.
Like, if I feel like if I'm watching this at home, I'm taking a break. I'm going to maybe go grab some food. I might be looking at my phone. When I was in that theater, you're locked in. And I would say there were times where I didn't quite know where the movie was going. And that's not a bad thing. But like I never felt like I was 100,000% fully engaged with the movie. I always felt kind of like an outsider watching it. So for some reason, I just didn't connect to it as much as I was hoping I would. Not saying that made it a bad movie, but for me, correct me, there's almost no score to this film.
There's no music in it.
I
think there's maybe a tiny little hum that comes in like halfway through, but no, there's no music in it whatsoever.
So like it really feels like you're just kind of like God's eye view watching of what's going on. It's a very movie of very complicated ideas.
Yeah.
And I did like that. And I remember watching it in theaters thinking, oh, what's he trying to say here? It was literally me half the time. And it's not super complicated, but I'm really just like, what is he doing here? And he makes some choices towards the very end of the film where I was like, oh, snap. Wait, what? Is this what I think's happening? I don't think the critical response was as great as I think Scorsese was hoping. I think the studios was hoping this is like a big Oscar film. I don't think it got many nominations.
It didn't. I think it only got nominated for cinematography.
Yes, which it was a beautiful looking film.
It was, yeah.
And I gotta remember, and I think if you asked me at the beginning of last year, Andrew Garfield's gonna get nominated for Oscar this year. Do you think it's gonna be for Hacksaw Ridge, or do you think it's gonna be for Silence? I would have put all my money on the Scorsese Silence.
Right.
I would have been like, dude, are you kidding me? Scorsese, a theme, religion, like an epic sprawling film. He's gonna absolutely get nominated for Silence. And he got nominated for Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah.
Now you've seen both films. Do you think they made the right choice?
I gotta say, I think I liked his performance in Silence more, honestly. Okay. And I like Hacksaw Ridge. I think it's a pretty good movie. He's really great in that movie in particular. I think he's the best part about it. I just think that the performance he was going for in Silence was a lot more layered, a lot more nuanced. And there was a lot more going on that involved his character more directly.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Hacksaw Ridge is more... the first half is more about Andrew Garfield, and the second half is more about like the actual war, the experience of being there. Whereas I feel like if Silence would not work if it wasn't for Andrew Garfield, basically.
Interesting. So you're saying like, but I could almost see another actor. If Leo starred in Silence, I could almost see it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Leo could star in anything.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's interesting. It is interesting because Hacksaw is much more of a more traditional old school war film. The performance is much louder and kind of in your face compared to Silence.
Right.
Which, not just saying this because of the title. He doesn't talk, a lot of it is portrayed through acting and emoting. It's not a very talkative film. Right. It is kind of a harsh film to watch at times. Some things that happen to the people, but he doesn't make it like very cinematic. Like when people die in Silence, it's just kind of matter of fact, and it's almost like losing your. It's like religion. He's questioning religion in a way, like, and I don't really know how. Now seeing it a year ago, I'm like digging my brain trying to remember some of the aspects that I remember. Right. Like you coming fresh off it. Were the themes that he was asking, did they work for you? Like, do you understand exactly what he was trying to say as far as like, I think the big quote from the trailer was like, all I hear is silence. Yeah. Like he wants to hear God's voice. Yeah. Like, but if you're a believer, you don't need to hear that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's all about the idea of religious skepticism, how religion plays a role into actual society and actual people, especially during that time, 17th century Japan. And I'm a very religious person. I grew up in the church. I went to private school throughout all of elementary school.
Oh, really?
Like had to do Sunday service, all that.
Wow.
So I'm very religious, and even going back to the meaning of real quick, like when we did our Darren Aronofsky episode, Aronofsky's very religious.
Yeah,
like
Noah,
the fountain.
Yeah.
So me and Ace had a great dialogue about how Aronofsky handles religion and how he's kind of portraying it through his kind of vision of it. Okay. Whereas I feel like Scorsese's taking religion from like more of an outsider's perspective. I don't know about Scorsese personally. I know if he's a very religious person.
Well, he actually almost as if he wasn't going to be a filmmaker, he thought about becoming a priest or a minister.
Really? Okay.
He actually like studied it. So like knowing these things, like when you watch Last Temptation of Christ in Silence, he is coming from a very educated, passionate place.
Right.
And like you watch interviews with him, he's literally almost became a minister instead of a filmmaker. I mean, I love the G.O.D., but thank God he chose the filmmaker because he's one of my all-time faves. So I think watching, again, I keep referring to Last Temptation of Christ because I think it's one of his masterpieces that just doesn't get. Again, have you seen it?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
What is your opinion on Last Temptation of Christ?
I love Last Temptation of Christ. It's like it really is a more of a realistic take on the traditional Jesus story. And if I don't know how much of it is actually true. I mean, you're giving me this information now about him being a minister or whatnot, but I mean, I don't know. You don't know if any religion is true, frankly, but. the fact that that movie is all about humanizing the figure of Jesus Christ and how our interpretation of a symbol could be just as flawed as any human being. So I think tackling that subject matter was really fascinating and interesting.
Yeah.
So when he is actually at the end being crucified, you feel that passion, especially from William Dafoe. Great performance.
Great performance.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about that movie is just like Harvey Keitel. It's kind of overcooking it, all the time.
He
but
comes in as he's Judas.
Judas,
believe, he sounds like a New Yorker. He just got off the subway. He didn't quite hide his accent very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, and that's one reason why I was really excited for Silence was because we were revisiting that subject matter. Because I don't think before Silence, he didn't really touch into that.
He doesn't really touch on it.
I mean, at all, really. Like, and this was like a deep dive from in all the reports. It was a passion project, something he's been wanting to make for a long time, based on a book. I also love samurai films, so I was like, oh, he's gonna be playing in this like samurai times. So I was really excited for it. I haven't revisited it, and I think the main reason was just nothing pulling me to revisit it. And again, I'm not trying to say like I didn't like the movie. I enjoyed the experience. It was a little testing at times. I did feel the length. I think it brings up some really cool questions as far as like what religion means and what it can mean to one person and what it might not mean to somebody else.
Right.
And the whole thing about them kind of pushing the religion onto a whole foreign country,
Yeah.
like. If a Japanese person watching that, they might be like, "What are these jerks doing?
Yeah.
Why are they trying to push their religion out?"
Well, I thought like it was actually coming more on the side of sympathizing with the Japanese
in some
ideology.
ways.
Yeah, because it's like it really is. It's the idea of like imperialism, right? Coming into somebody else's territory and literally taking over their cultures and their belief. And at the end of the film, I mean, do you mind if we spoil this or?
I mean, the movie's a year old. We'll do spoilers for the next 30 seconds.
Okay.
Fast forward 30 seconds starting now.
Yeah, at the end is kind of the revelation of like the Japanese interpretation of Christianity is different than the world's or the Portuguese or the rest of the world's. So I guess spoiler over. I guess that was to me that was a big spoiler. I guess
if you're listening again, its spoiler was over. It wasn't a huge spoiler. It wasn't
a huge spoiler,
but it does touch on the main theme of the film. And the way he delivers it is very interesting.
Yeah. To me that was the big like plot twist because it's like, oh, you have to reconsider and reconstruct the whole idea of why we're here, why we're on this journey.
Yeah.
And Liam Neeson.
Very interesting what they did with his character.
Yeah, because in the marketing, he seems like he's a prominent throughout, and he's only in there towards the last act of the film.
Yeah.
But when he does come in, he does have his whole spiel and everything. It really is like a switch of perspective. So I'm all for it.
Adam Driver was fine for me. His character wasn't in as much as I thought he was going to be. He's in it. But I thought Adam Driver did fine, but it really is, to me, the Andrew Garfield show.
Oh, definitely.
From beginning to end, and Scorsese, obviously, just what he's doing with the lens and the shots are composed are amazing.
Yeah, it's not a lot of, like, flashy camera moves,
no.
not the push-ins,
It's very basic.
Yeah.
But, again, it's more about the material and than it is about sweeping epic shots. This ain't The Last Samurai.
Right.
But, again, I dig it. Scorsese, that's his last film.
It's the most recent, I don't know. I mean, he's doing the Irishman with De Niro,
Pesci.
Yeah,
I mean
Pacino. Yeah.
Oh man, the only thing I'm worried about that is they're using the de-aging, like they did
the Benjamin Button stuff. Yeah.
So apparently, there's gonna be a lot of flashbacks where they use that technology. I mean, I hope Scorsese. I hope they showed him some tests to show them it's up to date. Because listen, when you watch like Michael Douglas and Ant-Man, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell and Guardians too.
Oh, that's the best one to me.
The best one. No, I agree. I was like, oh my god, they could bring actors back into their young selves.
Yeah.
And it's not a Tarkin situation where they're creating a character head to toe through computers.
Right.
They have the actors acting, and they gotta de-age them. So I have some hope. I hope the technology is there. I think it's gonna be a Netflix movie.
Yeah, it's gonna be Netflix, but I think Scorsese's pushing it for a theatrical release.
Yeah,
for that one first.
He totally would. For me, it's like Pesci and De Niro back together.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
And Pacino. I mean, have we seen Pacino in a Scorsese movie? Or?
I don't think we have.
Yeah.
This is the first time he's done this. Dude, like, how'd that not happen before?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he picked the De Niro side. It's like Brady and Aaron Rodgers. You pick one of the best. You don't go to the other one. So Scorsese, The Irishman, Silence. It's something maybe I will revisit one day. But honestly, when I think about it, it's just it's an investment, man.
Yeah, I don't think I would rewatch it again though. I don't think it's a long movie and it's really some of the more there's a lot of like torture scenes in there.
Yeah, it's brutal.
And a lot of that's really tough to deal with. But just as somebody who's like a religious nut and just thinks about that stuff a lot, and who just thinks about like global, I guess social society in general is like. That's something that was really powerful to me, and a film that's able to address that so well.
There are films that this movie kind of reminded you of it all. I mean, it's hard to compare it to other films. I think of The Mission, starring Robert De Niro, Jeremy Irons, very much about religion and how it worked in those days. If you guys haven't seen The Mission, it's a great film. I believe it was nominated for Best Picture the year it came out.
One of the best scores of all time.
Yes, great score. Directed by the guy who did The Killing Fields. Again, Robert De Niro, Jeremy Irons, and I believe was the first role for Liam Neeson.
It was.
Yeah, it was his. So, like, we're full circle here, baby.
Yeah.
Check out The Mission. Did you seen it?
Yeah.
Are you a fan?
Yeah, that's a great picture too, and it's again it kind of deals with the same idea of like coming to somebody's land and trying to impose your beliefs onto to other people. I think that's a great example because I didn't even make that comparison, but and the director of you mentioned The Killing Fields. That's also another movie I'm a big fan of. Mm-hmm. Also, it's a Vietnam kind of story there too, but I think that's all kind of thematically connected, right? Like the whole idea of Vietnam is just like coming in and trying to stop communism. Same thing with The Mission, and then same thing as we're talking about Silence now. Mm-hmm. To me, it kind of, the movie always, when I watched Silence, I thought from a visual standpoint, it's very much reminiscent of like Akira Kurosawa, you know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
That style of the way the filmmaking works, the movement and the wind and the trees and how, the camera's not necessarily moving, but all the different subjects in the frame are moving within. So
I mean, Scorsese is one of the great students of film.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, he is like, I would love nothing more than just have a 4-hour dinner with that guy and just, I wouldn't even say much. I would say a word and I let him go off, and I would just absorb all the knowledge I could from him. Because you think we know movies, that guy would put us to shame.
Oh, definitely.
Put him and like Tarantino room together, I feel like I would just watch that for 4 hours. Yeah. There should be a subscription like Netflix where it's just Scorsese and Tarantino in a dinner room talking movies 24/7. I would just keep it on.
Well, Scorsese, I mean, he came up in the age of like Spielberg, Lucas,
the whole crew, De Palma,
Coppola. Mm-hmm. So those guys, I mean, they're coming straight out of film school. Yep. So it was just nonstop of what they're going for there. So,
What are if we're talking about Scorsese, like, what do you say are like your favorite films of his outside of, like, well, Goodfellas, obviously. A lot of people outside of Goodfellas, what were like you say your favorite films? Would you go Raging Bull? Would you go Taxi Driver?
Well, Raging Bull is my number one. That's been my number one
of all time.
Of all, it's probably like if my all-time favorite movies list is like number 2 or 3 or something. Oh, wow,
okay.
Yeah, that movie is just. I mean, I could watch that movie any time of the day, any week, and it's just always enthralling and entertaining and visually stunning. And I don't know, it's just the way it portrays like masculinity and like how like testosterone drawn like strength and muscle and boxing all plays into a role of the personality of the people.
Totally. I mean, De Niro's probably the role he's going to put up there. He'll be remembered for a lot of roles, but I think that's the role. People will be like, that's the De Niro role right there, Raging Bull. Love that film. Goodfellas, like, I remember watching that as a kid and just kind of like the energy of that movie.
It's unstoppable.
It's like a freight train on coke.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And the way it ends, that's a perfect analogy. I remember seeing Wolf of Wall Street, and it was one of those things where I was like, I didn't know he had it in him anymore. Like, Scorsese had not made a movie like Goodfellas since Casino. I liked Casino. Some people would argue The Departed, I guess. Yeah. I'm one of those people who love Infernal Affairs, the original film. Oh, okay. So when I saw Departed, I just saw an inferior film, in my opinion. Oh. I still don't know how that movie won Best Picture. I'm in the minority. I get it. But, like, I saw Wolf of Wall Street, and I was just kind of like, if you told me a 21-year-old director straight out of, like, NYU directed that movie, I would have believed you. Like, it just felt so fresh and energetic. Like, it just felt like a new director is on the scene. It's kind of like how I compare when I first saw Boogie Nights. Like Paul Thomas Anderson. Like, when I first saw Boogie Nights, like, this guy's the next Scorsese, man. And he even says in interviews, like, he took shots from that movie where he's like, this is my Scorsese shot. Like, he was going for that Goodfellas vibe. So when I saw Wolf of Wall Street, I could not believe I was seeing this director who I thought hasn't lost it, but like was past that kind of movie. And I was just super impressed, man. I mean, like, some of the films that came out before that, Shutter Island, I thought was fine.
Yeah. I like Shutter Island.
The Aviator to me is fine.
Aviator was my first Scorsese movie.
That was your first Scorsese?
That was the first one I ever watched. And,
okay.
I caught that on. That's when I was starting to develop a taste for film and everything. So I caught that one on cable. Yeah. I actually love that movie a lot. Actually, really? I think the way they're going for in terms of like making it feel like the particular film period that they were like set in, and Cate Blanchett is wonderful in that.
She is really good as Katharine Hepburn.
Right. So I love The Aviator. And plus the sequence where the plane crashes. Yeah, to like the houses.
But if you would have told me like Ron Howard directed that movie, I would have believed you. Yeah. There's nothing to me that screamed Scorsese like when I think like the King of Comedy or something like.
Yeah, King of Comedy is another.
King of Comedy is great.
It's a classic.
Like there's some movies that people just forget. Another one's Bringing Out the Dead. That felt a lot like Taxi Driver.
Oh, right.
And, like, those are movies, like, a lot of people kind of would say Casinos, copying Goodfellas. So, like, I don't know, like, I think he did have a rough patch. Even Gangs of New York, even though I love Dale Day-Lewis in that movie, the movie doesn't really work for me as a whole. I'm more impressed with the movie than I enjoy it. When I watch Gangs of New York, I'm like, that looks awesome. Like, the town, some of the characters, like... You know, there's a scene where the firemen are fighting to like turn out a fire. Right. The third act feels kind of rushed. Like some of the things that happen in Leo don't really work out for me. So like, for me, just Wolf of Wall Street was like his. I don't want to say masterpiece because he had masterpieces before, but it was like him saying, "Oh my God, I could do it again." I don't know. That's just my thought on it.
Right. No, I mean, I agree. I remember watching Wolf of Wall Street when I first saw it, when it first came out in theaters. And like you said, it's like, it was full on, nonstop. It's a 3-hour movie, but Jesus, like, you don't feel that at all. Like, I remember specifically watching in theaters, like, the first 2 hours and 30 minutes just like flew by. And then I guess the ending felt like a long ending just by comparison of everything that came before. But it's definitely reminiscent of the Goodfellas vibe in terms of the plot, in terms of like the rise and fall of a character.
I remember seeing The Wolf of Wall Street, and then I theater hopped to see American Hustle.
Ooh, now David O. Russell.
I feel like that was David Russell doing a little bit of a Scorsese.
Absolutely.
And it was just happened to work out that day. I didn't plan on seeing both movies that day. I just happened to be going to see American Hustle or Wolf of Wall Street. And as I was walking out of theater, like on a movie high, I saw American Hustle was playing, and I didn't pay for a ticket. I just theater hopped. And I think I might have done American Hustle a disservice because coming from like pure uncut Scorsese to like American Hustle, which to me is an okay movie. I didn't love the film. I didn't think it deserved all the Oscar praise it got. I should probably watch it again because again, I was coming off the Wolf of Wall Street high. That was a weird experience for me, seeing Scorsese doing it again to somebody kind of doing their version of what Scorsese used to do.
Yeah, I think American Hustle is a funny one because I think if that movie didn't have the actors that they had, if they didn't have Christian Bale, Amy Adams, Bradley Cooper, Jeremy Renner. It's like I don't think that movie would have worked, honestly. Like,
no, I think
it's completely built around
the star power. Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence got a nomination, which I don't think she deserved. Like I do like. I was looking at the IMDb. He did Hugo, which is a movie I really enjoyed.
Oh, Hugo's great.
Yeah, Hugo's great. Now for me, it was like he got to play with 3D for the first time.
Yeah,
like I love seeing a director playing with a new medium. Do you remember The Adventures of Tintin?
Oh, Spielberg.
Yeah. I remember watching that in theaters, and I had a good time with it. And the 3D was really good. But you could see, I could picture Spielberg like, I got a new toy to play with. Mm-hmm. The camera could go wherever I want. Like, it was literally like he was just playing with the medium. And that's how I felt about Hugo. I felt like both these great directors who've been around forever, have made some of the best films ever made. To see them play with like new technology. Like, I was watching Hugo, I was like, oh my God, this is a guy who knows every camera shot, depth of field. Mm-hmm. He's using the 3D to its absolute best. Mm-hmm. And Adventure Tintin, while it might not be the best movie, some of the action set pieces that he directed in that are like reminiscent of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, that's exactly what I feel as well. It's like it's kind of felt like if Spielberg was remaking Raiders of the Lost Ark, but for kids and in 3D and animated. That's how it felt. And fun fact, I mean, if you watch The Adventures of Tintin, because I watched it a couple of times, like if you watch the camera movements, the camera actually never stops moving. Like, there's never a tripod shot. There's never a steady. It's either handheld or it's like zooming all around, the set. Yeah. So it's really interesting.
I think it probably felt freeing to Spielberg. Like I could just like magic wand this mother effer, and the camera could go wherever I want it, and like. You're right. It almost felt like it never stopped moving. Mm-hmm. There's that one sequence at the end where he's going down the hill of this town, and you're just like jumping from one person to the other or an animal, and I was just thinking like, oh my God, it's like a roller coaster ride.
Right.
It almost feels like one of those rides you go to Universal Studios where you strap in. It's just nonstop. I was like, oh man.
Right.
So I just love seeing directors kind of play with stuff like that. And listen, I'm excited for The Irishman, Scorsese. He's always gonna. I'm just directors like him. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Even if I hear the movie's not that good. Ridley Scott. Say what you will about him. Like his movies can be up and down, but I've seen too many great films of his where I'm always gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. Like I saw All the Money in the World. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's like one of the best films of the year, but I enjoyed it. But every time I go see one of his films. Even if it's The Counselor, which a lot of people hated.
I like The Counselor.
I didn't think it was horrible. A lot of people hated that movie. I always am excited because going in, I know this could be his next great movie. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always happen. Most of the time, it probably isn't going to happen.
Right.
But when it does, man, just having that chance. Same thing with Nolan. I think every time definitely. I go see a Nolan film, I'm excited. Like Interstellar didn't work for me that well. Mm-hmm. Even Dunkirk didn't really work 100% for me. I know you loved it.
Yeah, we talked about Dunkirk. Yeah.
But like, I still I will be excited when Nolan's next film gets announced because I know there's a chance I could see something not just good but great, so that could transcend the genre in a lot of ways, or just filmmaking. Honestly, these guys have really pushed the envelope. So Scorsese's up there. He's one of them. The one person I will say, one of my favorite directors growing up was Oliver Stone.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Born on 4th of July, Platoon, Wall Street, JFK. Those are like some of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. JFK in particular for me.
Yeah. Oh, JFK masterclass in editing.
Oh,
that's it's
the scene where he's talking to X and with who played X in that? That was
Donald Sutherland.
Donald Sutherland. Yeah, one of the best edited sequences ever in any motion picture.
If you want to learn how to edit, like that, I'm pretty sure they just show you that movie in school.
Yeah,
any film school. So like he hasn't made a good movie in my opinion in over a decade.
You didn't like
maybe
Snowden?
20 years. It's fine. It was fine.
That's fine. Yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like he hasn't made horrible movies. I did not like Wall Street 2. I can't even think of half his movies. Savages. Was okay. Yeah. Like they're not bad movies, but like he's at the point now where I'm like I don't know if he has another going in him. Like I'll still give him the benefit of the doubt, but he's starting to wear thin on me a little bit. Although I'm one of the people who didn't hate Alexander.
Alexander, right.
Colin Farrell. I didn't hate that movie. I think it's ambitious, and sometimes ambition could actually make me like a movie when I probably shouldn't.
Right. Did you like Natural Born Killers from Oliver Stone?
Yeah, but that's when he went...
He was like at his peak in that point.
That's when he's like, I'm switching gears, man.
Yeah,
I'm going, like, you watch Platoon and you watch Natural Born Killers, you would not think that's the same director.
Yeah.
He did the film, like, U-Turn with Sean Penn, which is very much in the style of Natural Born Killers. Like, he just... again, maybe some people say he was going through his drug stage or something. I don't know. But like he just, I've never seen a director switch up his style so extremely. And that's not a bad thing. I think, that could be a good thing. A lot of people consider Natural Born Killers to be a masterpiece. Yeah. But I do prefer his older films before he kind of went that style.
Right.
But if you love that style, I don't put it against you. All right, guys, we're getting toward the end of the podcast here. This has been a great talk so far. So what I always do is I tweet out that we're about to record. I'm going to read out some tweets here that people that I said, hey, what's the last movie you watched? You and I will give our quick thoughts on them. And let's see what we got here. I got a lot of tweets. So let's hear. Tyler Myers said he saw The Big Sick, one of my favorite movies of the year. Very good film. Did you see it?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Blu-ray you have.
I have it. I bought it on Black Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people compare it to like a new age When Harry Met Sally. I love When Harry Met Sally. I think that's one of the best romantic comedies of all time. Ken Knapsack would agree. I need to watch it again. I really enjoyed it the first time. I might rewatch it just to make sure if it's going to be my top 10 of the year.
Yeah, I enjoyed that movie so much, man. And I think there's a movie that comes out every year that's kind of generic and kind of, paint by numbers, but it's just so good at doing those aspects. And I think The Big Sick was one of those for me. So I really enjoyed that. I loved it.
All right, at Cinema Stud, who is a Patreon supporter. Thank you, buddy. Last movie I saw was 3 Billboards and The Florida Project. Both very excellent movies. Both very different movies. Florida Project, did you see Florida Project?
I haven't seen Florida Project.
I enjoyed it. It is like a fly on the wall kind of movie where you kind of just are dropped into these people's lives. And you get to see what their life is like in a week. It really does a great job of making you feel like you're living with these people. Some people I've heard say it's annoying because a lot of it is just falling around these little kids. William Dafoe is probably a lock to get nominated for Best Supporting Actor. He is great in this. William Dafoe's great in everything, though. I don't know if he'll win, but I do think he's great in it. 3 Billboards, I really enjoyed. I'm a huge fan of that director, Martin McDonough, something like that. He did 3 Billboards.
He did 7 Psychopaths.
Which I love.
Yeah.
And he did In Bruges, which I love. Actually, I would probably put 3 Billboards after those 2 movies. I think I liked his 2 films more. Okay. This third one is definitely a little more open-ended, I would say. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
These are 2 movies. Sean Baker's one of my favorite filmmakers. The guy who did Florida Project.
Yep.
And so is, like you said, Martin McDowell. So.
McDowell, such a good director. Yeah. Always excited for him to see what he does next. Only 3 movies and impressive. Yeah. Atlantis, The Lost City. One of the movies you watched years after first watched from at Pete Wiz. I remember watching this in theaters. I saw Atlantis. Michael J. Fox. Have you seen this movie?
I haven't seen it. Okay.
It's cool, man. It's back when Disney was like, we don't know what we're doing, and we're not making movies like Little Mermaid anymore.
Oh, is that the one where he's like piloting the giant boat that's like a ship?
And they go underwater and they go and they find Atlantis.
I'd have to look at the... I don't think I've seen this one. Sorry about that.
Listen, I dig it. It's a fun movie. I think it's around that time where they were making movies like Lilo and Stitch and Emperor's New Groove. Right. Like they weren't making like top tier stuff.
I remember when this came out.
Yeah.
I was a little kid when this movie came out. So I just didn't see it. I remember the other one though, Treasure Island.
Treasure Island, yeah.
Yeah, that was that was an incredible one.
Yeah, well, Pete, I dug the last Atlantis, Lost City. Michael J. Fox, it's always great to hear him do voice work. A forgotten Disney movie for sure, but I think it had a TV show for a little bit, so it wasn't too bad. Let's see. Real Music Man 625, Trey Davis said, War of the Planet of the Apes. What do you think of War of the Planet of the Apes? It is a very somber movie, more than I expected.
If I'm being honest, I haven't gotten around to
seeing it. You have not seen War of the Apes?
Which it's just it's hard because Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is really one of my favorite.
Dawn's great.
One of my favorite sci-fi movies.
Well, I'll just say this: I still think Dawn is the best of the trilogy. Okay. I love Rise. War is really good, but it is like a bummer. Like I'm watching it, and it was. I mean, it's just a somber movie. Wow. There's not a lot of like big action. There's action, but I think it came out during the summer, and you expected some big summer set pieces. Dawn of the Apes perfectly had great acting, drama, but those big set pieces make you feel like you're watching a Hollywood movie. Right. I don't think War of the Apes really did that. It went real drama, okay. Which I think a lot of people will argue is a good thing. Right. But it's a somber
movie.
Yeah, so get ready to be depressed.
Right.
All right, let's go. What else we got here? Another War of the Apes. Sorry, buddy.
Sorry, yeah, I'm sorry I haven't seen these movies. I apologize.
It's okay, man. All right, I'm just gonna knock this one out. Eric Johnson at Eric J Designs. All These Sleepless Nights. He tweeted a poster. I've never heard of this movie.
Wow, I never heard of that one. No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you win this round of the podcast. Neither of us have even heard of this movie. I wonder if it's a foreign film. It looks like it played at Sundance. I will definitely look into this because I'm always interested in seeing new films.
Yeah.
Ooh, Jesse Lowe at the Jabbas. Wind River. Did you see Wind River?
Yeah, I saw Wind River. Yeah.
What'd you think?
That's a good movie. That's a really good movie.
Thank you.
Taylor Sheridan has been just on a hot streak.
Dude,
you talk about Martin McDowell, three movies.
Well, he started as a writer. This is his first one he's directed.
Yeah. But as a writer, I mean, Hell or High Water, Sicario, and now this is like, wow, that's a streak.
I mean, I agree. Like Hell or High Water was like probably the biggest surprise of. Was it last year?
Yeah, last year.
Like I remember seeing that. Like, what is this movie? I thought it was a VOD, and then it turned out to be, I think, my number 2 or 3 movie of the year. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I was Wind River. I was really excited, and man, fantastic. Jeremy Renner at the best he's been since probably
Hurt Locker.
Hurt Locker. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of the name. Absolutely loved that movie. He does these weird like modern westerns.
Definitely.
So well.
And that's kind of like a noir kind of mixture in there too with Wind River. So
good point.
I love that.
All right, let's see. We got a couple more. Then we'll call it a day here.
Okay.
Let's see.
Do you think Wind River is gonna have a shot for the Oscars? I know it came out early in the year.
I don't know. I'm curious. I think it's like in that middle ground where it could like if it got nominated, I wouldn't be like shocked. I'd be a little surprised, but I'd be happy. Right. I think it's. I will say this: it'll more than likely make my top 10 this year.
Right.
I need to go through all the lists, but I'd be shocked if it didn't. Pitch Perfect 3, according to Blake Riley. Sorry, Blake, we didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
I didn't even have to ask you. Don't care. Ooh, here we go. Sicario. Anthony Coitus. I hope I said that wrong. Sicario, so damn good. Can't wait for the sequel. I love Sicario. It was one of my favorite films that year. And I heard, that new sequel trailer came out. Salado, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Sicario 2. It looked awesome.
It looked really good.
Yeah. And I've heard some people like, oh, well, it doesn't have Emily Blunt. She was the main character in the first film. Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry. When I walked out of Sicario, I was talking about one person, Benicio del Toro. And it's like, the trailer at times is a little cheesy. He's like, I'm taking the reins off. He's like, I want you to start a war for me. Right. Like, it sounded a little cheesy at times, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm hook, line, and sinker, man. Right. Del Toro's like shooting a gun weird.
Yeah.
He's just like, I was like, oh my god, the best character from the first movie, who was not really the star of that movie. Like, he was in and out of it.
He was like the scene stealer.
He was the scene stealer, and now they're giving him the whole scene, all the scenes.
Yeah. And, Taylor Sheridan's coming back to write the second one, too. So
yeah. Dude, he's going to kill it. In the trailer, I was impressed. I think it looked awesome. Yeah. All right, we'll go with last one. Terrence Page, longtime JTE Movie Thinks follower, Schmo follower, great fan. Hey. Mr. TPJ. Detroit is one of the most underrated movies of 2017 that no one talks about. Will Poulter. I thought he was going to say Will. No, Will Porter was great in it. Did you see Detroit?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Catherine Bigelow, like The Hurt Locker. I understand it won Best Picture, but I love Zero Dark Thirty.
Zero Dark 30 is one of my favorites.
One of my favorites, too. So, I was so anticipating this movie. John Boyega out of A Star War. And just had a great cast. And I love movies based on true stories. So, I was all in for this movie. What'd you think?
I gotta be honest, man. I wasn't the biggest fan of this movie, only because I kind of felt like they addressed a lot of what was happening and how it happened. They never get really into the why, I guess. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The real context behind it. So I was disappointed in that effect. It was more about the experience and being in that hotel with these people that night.
Yeah.
In Detroit, rather than it was more about the bigger, broader concepts, but. Did you see it? And did you?
Yes, I saw Opening Weekend. It's a rough experience.
Yeah.
A lot of people go to movies to have a good time or escapism.
Yeah.
This is a movie you have to know going in. You're dealing with some tough subject matter, and I will give her credit. I felt like the characters. I was trapped in that theater.
Yeah.
I was trapped in that situation. I do wish that maybe it showed. I kind of wish that was one of the. I wish it was 3 or 4 storylines, and that was A, B, or C. Instead, it was just, that's the story.
Yeah.
'Cause there's so much more going outside of that hotel. Like, I kind of wish it was more of a, like, I don't want to say Crash because that's a bad example, but like Babel, or like these movies where it like shows you one event but through 4 or 5 different perspectives.
Yeah.
Like, if this was like part of interweaving different stories, I think I would have liked it more. I think being in there the whole time was just too much.
Yeah. And you know, one of the big complaints is that they spend too much time in the first act setting up the main singer guy, and not spending enough time like developing the rest of the characters who fly in and out of.
Totally understand. And I will say, like, it did go on a little long for me. I remember thinking to myself, I thought this thing was over like 2 times already.
Oh, right.
It almost felt like they wanted to do a miniseries.
Yeah.
Like this would have been a great miniseries, or like maybe just a 6-hour documentary. Because when the movie kept going, and I appreciated anytime a movie ends with a lot of text of telling you what happened to everybody. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like, okay, maybe that could have been told a better way. Yeah. But overall, I think it's, even though I didn't love the movie, like I agree with you, I didn't love it. I don't think it'll be my top 10 of the year. It was so well made, so well acted. I don't begrudge anybody for thinking it's one of the best films of the year.
Oh, definitely.
I think if you connected with it, every aspect of filmmaking, in my opinion, is done so well in that. Yeah. That the only way I could see you not like a movie is if you're having trouble with the subject matter, or you just weren't able to connect to the story. Right. Which sounds like you weren't really able to connect with it because you think they could explore more things better.
Yeah, I mean, just from the cinematography, the editing, the acting, all the stuff that Catherine Bigelow does what she does so well. Yeah, it all is executed very well. I don't know. It's just as soon as they started playing the cartoon in the beginning, I was like,
okay. Wow, you're out from the get go. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's gonna do it for the tweets. There were plenty more I didn't get to. But there's only so many RB3 hasn't seen. We don't want to get to all of them. RB3, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, man. I'm really happy you had me on. Like I said, been a huge fan for a long time. And getting to talk silence with my friend JTE here. Yeah. I get a lot of people don't realize, like, outside of Schmoes, we text a lot. Yeah. Me, you, and Ace, we have a group chat. Hey.
We're just a bunch of friends that like talking movies, man. Yeah. And that's, when it comes to Schmoes and all this stuff, the best thing about it is, we actually get to work in this industry. You're in school. But it's just the people you get to meet doing these jobs. The reason why I say I have one of the best jobs in the world is not just because I get to go to work and talk movies. It's because the people I get to work with are all awesome. Right. They're all geeks like me. It really felt like when I was back in film school. I went to film school and I was like, I'm surrounded by people who are like on my brain level when it comes to movies. Right. Then when I left school, it was hard to find those people. Right. You felt like you kind of were missing that for me. And hooking up with the Schmoes and becoming part of the show, it was almost like finding that out here in LA. And LA is a good place to find that because everyone out here is in the business or loves the business in some way. If it's not music, it's film or whatever. Right. But you know what, guys? We're here because JTE Movie Thinks is a movie lovers podcast. Speaking of movie lovers, movie goers, and film buffs, what a great way to transition to Patreon. Hey. Hey-o. So, guys, I did open a Patreon last month, and I want to give a big shout out to all you guys that are supporting me on there. The thing I love about RB3 is, like, I actually get to interact with these fans a little bit more, and I get to give them like perks. I give away digital movie codes. I give a free review every month. There's gonna be a mini version of this podcast just for the Patreon listeners. But if you're a tier 3 supporter, which somebody is, right. I'm shocked as you actually get to record a few minutes of your thoughts on the last movie you watched. And I'm going to attach it at the end of this podcast. And that will happen every month. That's right. You too could be on the JTE Movie Thinks podcast. Whoa. All you got to do is support me on Patreon. It's a small price to pay. So guys, we're going to end this show with a quick word from one of my Patreon followers, Mitchell. And he's going to tell you about the last movie he watched and some of his thoughts. Mitchell, come on. Do be proud.
Hello JTE and JTE Movie Thinks listeners. My name is Mitchell and I'm here to give a quick review of the last film I watched, which was the Martin Scorsese classic Goodfellas. I like to introduce my sister to a lot of the classic films she may have not seen or even known about, and Goodfellas just so happened to be next on that list. Goodfellas is about the real-life story of Henry Hill and his life in the mob, based on the book Wise Guy, Life in a Mafia Family. This is considered to be one of Scorsese's best films, if not his best film, and even after 27 years it's still easy to see why. Goodfellas is just as raw, powerful, and intense since its release in September of 1990. Many scenes still shock and surprise me. The violence still packs a punch, more so than most films these days, and the main characters are both wildly entertaining as well as extremely dangerous, and one can turn to the other very quickly. Ray Liotta and Lorraine Bracco as Henry Hill and Karen Hill carry the film well. But the powerhouse performances by Robert De Niro as James Conway and Joe Pesci as Tommy DeVito are what really propel this film. Also, in rewatching Goodfellas, after not seeing it for so many years, I noticed Martin Scorsese doesn't do anything too fancy with the way he shot the film, save for the long take walking into the Copacabana, a few quick push-ins, pull-outs, and whip pans. It's shot very classically, but it's all in the way he edited the film and the trust he puts into the actors to tell the story. A lot of modern filmmakers can learn a lot from films like Goodfellas, and if you haven't seen it, please do. You won't regret it. I didn't want to go into too much detail about the story and the plot. I want you to go in there fresh and to see for yourself how great it is. My sister gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. So that's pretty good. I hope you enjoyed my little quick review of Goodfellas, and also I hope you enjoyed the JTE Movie Thinks podcast. And thank you. Have a great day.